In this video, we'll be talking about area of parallelograms and trapezoids. A parallelogram is a four-sided shape with opposite sides parallel and congruent or equal to each other. So in a parallelogram, the opposite sides are parallel to each other and congruent to each other. It makes it a parallelogram. A trapezoid is a four-sided figure or a four-sided shape with one pair of opposite sides parallel and the other pair is not parallel. So in a trapezoid, we have only one pair of parallel sides, and the other two are just not parallel. They can be equal to each other or not, but it is not important about the other two sides. One pair of sides in a trapezoid is always parallel to each other, and the other pair is not. Those parallel sides will be called bases. So every trapezoid, no matter how it's turned, has one pair of parallel sides, and those are going to be called bases. Base 1 and base 2, or base 1 and base 2, which is which doesn't matter. They'll just call bases. The parallel sides of the trapezoid will be called bases. That's important for the area formula. So in a parallelogram, the area is base times height. Base is one side of the parallelogram and the height is perpendicular to it. So in this parallelogram, I can use this side to be a base because it's on the grid line and I can count how many units it is. And this base is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 units. The height is the perpendicular to it, a representation of how tall this parallelogram is. And if I go from this base up to the top, it is 3 units high, and I can use that height maybe here inside the parallelogram or even here on the outside of the parallelogram, just showing that from the bottom of the parallelogram to the top is 3 units. Or I can use it in here. The height has to be perpendicular to the chosen base. It means 90 degrees distance with the base. So if the base here is 4, the height being 3, we can use the formula for the base 4, height 3, the area of a parallelogram is base times height, which is 4 times 3, and that would be 12. Whatever units we have, they will be squared. So units squared. In other words, it could be inches squared, or square feet, or square meters, or square centimeters. The units have to be to the second power because we're multiplying two lengths, base and height. For the trapezoid, we have 2 bases. So it's important to notice that in a trapezoid, we have a pair of parallel lines. Well, those parallel sides of the trapezoid are called bases. They're base 1 and base 2. That is up to you which one to call base 1 and base 2. So let's say base 1 and base 2. Base 1 here on top will be 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Base 2 here will be on the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. And now What is the height? The height is the distance between the bases, or the distance between two parallel sides. So I can mark it here on the inside, and it's perpendicular to both. I can show it here on the outside. And it is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So the height is the distance between the two bases. Even if I turn my trapezoid this way, it's still the height, the distance between the two bases is the perpendiculars connected to two. If I have the formula for the trapezoid, base 1 and base 2 we add together, so base 1 plus base 2 times or multiply by the height and then divide by 2. Pretty lengthy formula. Write it down. Nice and neat. And then say the area of the trapezoid is base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So once we use this formula to find the area of the trapezoid, we substitute in our trapezoid base 1, 4 plus base 2, 6. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height, 4. Then divide by 2. Base 1 plus base 2, 10 times the 4, and then divide by 2. 10 times 4, 40, and then divide by 2. The area of my trapezoid is going to be 20 units squared. 20, and then we have the area, so our units have to be to the second power. The area of the parallelogram, base times height. The formula, base times height, multiply the side times the perpendicular to it. So the base has to be the side of the parallelogram, and the height is perpendicular to it. In a trapezoid, we have base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. The base 1 and base 2 are the parallel sides, times the height, distance in between, and then divide by 2. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Let's see some examples. For the parallelogram, out of the measurements that we have, I like to find the given height. The height is telling me how tall the parallelogram is, so from here to here. And then the perpendicular is to the 6. In other words, the base that we have to use is 6. Base, height. Because the base and height are always perpendicular to each other. So I don't need the measurement 7 for this problem. Base 6, height 5. The formula for the area of the parallelogram is base times height, so 6 times 5, which is going to be 30 centimeters squared. So in the parallelogram, again, the height is perpendicular to the base, so the height and the base will be right here. And the 10 is not needed for this problem. The base and height are perpendicular to each other. So base will be 15, height will be 9. The area is base times height, 15 times 9. And then we multiply 135 inches squared. Oops, inches square. In this parallelogram, it's like if I was to turn it this way, I see the height, 3 centimeters, and then I see this base, or the perpendicular side to it. So when I look at my parallelogram, I like to identify the given height and then the side perpendicular to it, will be the base. Base is a side of a parallelogram, 20. Height is how tall it is, 3. The area of the parallelogram is base times height, 20 times 3, which is 60 centimeters squared. The base and height can be determined by looking at the height first, how tall it is, then the perpendicular side to it. So if I turn this picture this way and look at the parallelogram this way, then I can see that the base is 3 and the height is how much it is to the top, which is 9 centimeters. 3 centimeters and 9 to get to the top. So base and height are the two measurements perpendicular to each other. 11 is not needed in this problem. So base 3, height 9. The area of the parallelogram is 3 times 9, 27 centimeters squared. For the trapezoid, we need to identify the two parallel sides. Those are called bases, which is 1, which is 2, doesn't matter. And then the height is the perpendicular between the two of them. So we can say this base 1, base 2 are the parallel sides, and the height is the perpendicular between two of them, showing how tall it is. The 10 and 14 are not needed for this problem. So base 1, 8, base 2, 12, height 7. The formula for the area of the trapezoid, that's something we need to remember. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So we add the bases, 8 plus 12, add the parallel segments, multiply by the 7, multiply by the segment in between, and then divide by 2. So we have 8 plus 12, 20 times 7, and then divide by 2. 20 times 7 is 140, and then 140 divided by 2 will be 70 whatever units square. In the next example, see, the trapezoids can look differently. So the bases are the parallel sides. The parallel sides, base 1 and base 2, which doesn't matter. Base 1, base 2 are the parallel sides. And then the height between is this perpendicular side of the trapezoid, 4. And that one is the same measure from top to bottom, anywhere within. So here, this side of the trapezoid can actually be used as a height. So base 1, 6, base 2, 7, and height 4. We don't need 5 for this problem. It's just another side of the trapezoid, but it's not needed for the area, because in the area what we need is base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So when we substitute base 1, 6 plus 7, base 1 and 2, 6 and 7, we add, times the 4, multiply the height, and then divide by 2. 6 plus 7, 13 times 4, 52. So 52 divided by 2 will be 26 centimeters squared. Formula, base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. So out of these measurements, you can pause the video and identify the base 1, base 2, height, and see what area you get. Pause the video, give it a try. We have parallel sides. The parallel sides of the trapezoid are called bases. So let's say this is base 1 and this is base 2. Which is which does not matter. You pick. The height is the perpendicular in between, showing how tall it is. The other measurements are not needed for the area. So base 1, let's say this time I have 8 base 2, 6 times the height, 4. And then use the formula. Base 1 plus base 2 times the height, divide by 2. 8 plus 6 is 14. 14 times 4, 56, divide by 2 will be 28, whatever units square. And for the last problem, the bases are the parallel. Parallel segments are called base 1 and base 2, which is up to you. Height is in between base 1, 6, base 2, 4, height 5. Formula, base 1 plus base 2 times the height, divide by 2. So 6 plus 4, multiply then by 5, and then divide by 2. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 times 5, 50. 50 divided by 2 will be 25. And in this situation we have yards, so units will be square.